we got to talk about some new signings that happened this week. And you and I have been talking about this first one for a while. Everybody has. We ain't the only ones, right? But Aaron Rodgers is now a Pittsburgh Steeler. And he signed with the team, 1-year deal. And, there was a lot of the Steelers already know what's going to happen. And Aaron Rodgers already know what's going to happen. And now they're like, oh my gosh, he's secretly married. We don't give a fuck about none of that. What we care about here is how does he impact us fantasy-wise? And, I think Aaron Rodgers to the Steelers is probably a bigger move than most people think. I kind of think that Aaron Rodgers still has. He threw for almost 4,000 yards last year. So when you talk about a quarterback coming off of Achilles injury, he played through the entire season. We're like, shit, is he going to be able to go last year at 40 years old? We saw he still has a little bit of juice, especially in the second half. Obviously they need to be able to protect him in Pittsburgh, but Aaron Rodgers to the Steelers, Pete, how you feeling about that?
It's good. I'm happy that they got somebody, you know what I'm saying? Because it was looking dire. It was looking like that's an offense you just completely have to stay away from. You're thinking DK's values in the tank. So this breathes a little bit of life into DK because we know how Aaron Rodgers loves to kind of focus on his main target. So I'm excited for DK. As far as Aaron Rodgers goes, I don't know that I'm expecting too much out of him. It's nostalgic. A lot of times when we see these historic QBs go from their, second to their third team, it was, it's a little underwhelming. I will say, though, Brett Favre on his third team when he went to Minnesota, he kind of had a pretty good season.
Yeah.
He kind of had one pretty good season. But
man, he started Harvin and Sidney Rice, bro. And I remember he threw that Greg Lewis last second touchdown against us, bro. I still remember that to this day. But A-Rod's, bro, I think there's so much with him outside of sports that affects everybody's thought process, which, it's understandable. A lot of people integrate how they feel about people into their fantasy rankings. He's 41 years old this year, but he did play pretty well last year. Aaron Rodgers played, I would say, well last year. He finishes the QB 15 in fantasy. He had 3,997 yards, 28 touchdowns. So it's not like he's just terrible. He was the QB 15, which is startable in Superflex. Shit, that might be even startable in your single QB leagues if you decide to wait. Now headed to Pittsburgh, where he does pair up, and probably the offense isn't as good. I'll say that. It's not as good as it was. You don't have Garrett Wilson, Brees, and Devontae Adams. You have DK, and that's it. So I think right now he's going outside of the top 20 quarterbacks, and obviously ADP is going to change now that he's signed. But I think Aaron Rodgers is probably closer to a 4,030 season than he is to falling off a cliff. I genuinely believe that. And I think that Pat Freiermuth's going to see a big upgrade. I think Jaylen Warren is going to be healthy in this offense. And I think if they're able to get an Amari Cooper, a Keenan Allen, they're able to get one of those other pieces in there, we might be talking about Aaron Rodgers as a top 12 to 15 option yet again.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because what you said really makes sense because there are some value wide receivers for free agents right now. I think in order for him to reach that 4,000 mark, 30 touchdown mark, they have to sign somebody else. Yeah. And probably the best signing out there for that is Amari Cooper, in my opinion. Keenan Allen is good, but I think Amari Cooper just has a little bit more in the tank than Keenan Allen. And if you think about it last year, he started off slow, right? They still acquired some talent. They got Devontae Adams midway through the season. Even those first few games with Devontae Adams, he was still underperforming. Devontae was underperforming until he said, look, bro, it's almost halftime. Give me the rock. Yeah. And then from there, you've seen Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams' value kind of skyrocket through the last 6 games of the season or whatever it was. It's funny because he has probably the best connection with Devontae Adams. We'll see how that connection lasts with DK because he can be a hothead himself. Right. Aaron Rodgers, how invested he really is in this last year. I think that there's a lot riding on it, and there's more options for him to kind of fall off than than him to kind of stay on.
Well, I know you've never really been a big Aaron Rodgers guy. Like, to be like, and I don't know if it's off the field or on the field production wise, but it's like what he's done. And I'm not a big Aaron Rodgers guy either, but to be honest, like I think he's just a value right now in these drafts because it's rare for us to see Aaron Rodgers in general outside of top 15 picks. And then when you start talking about like the receiving core, right? If they are able to add somebody else, DK is going to be just fine. And DK might have one of them years. DK might have one of them years touchdown wise because that's what Raj does. He targets people in the red zone. So for me, I'm not necessarily saying like I need to go out and draft Rodgers and draft DK and all these. But I just think the value is crazy right now, especially when it comes to DK Metcalf. Like when you have two other receivers, when he was in Seattle, you have JSN, you got Tyler Lockett. So you have other receivers to compete with. He ain't got there's nobody else. There's nobody else. It's literally him. And we saw George Pickens kind of struggle with that. I think DK actually shines in that kind of role.
Oh, 100%. I mean, right now, prior to any other free agent signings, right now it's him, Pat Freiermuth, and who else? You know, I could probably go out there and start at the Y. I could probably go out there and start at the Y for them right now. You know what I'm saying? Sign me up.
Yeah, you're taller than most of their receivers, and you 5'7".
Boy, don't put that spot on my name. Come on now.
Yo, hey, and to be honest, like honestly, they have the gadget guys, right? You got the Calvin Austin and the Roman Wilson. Yeah. You got Van Jefferson there. Like they need a major upgrade. So I feel like this Steelers team is going to be mediocre again. But one thing, like Jaylen Warren's going to see some work out the passing game. I think there's going to be a surprise on this team too. Like, maybe DK's going to be the guy, but there's going to be another surprise player. Like Rodgers doesn't just not throw for 3,500 to 4,000 yards. So DK takes 1,200 to 1,500 of the at, which you're going to get value on DK Metcalf this year. Like dead ass, you're going to get value on it. If he doesn't get that 1,500 yards, where's the second? Like, who is the second player that's getting like 1,000 yards? That's going to be the real value.
Yeah, and I think that I truly think if it's going to work, I don't know what their cap space is looking like, but that second wide receiver is going to come from free agency.
Yeah.
You know, if you think about it too, like their first game is a revenge game against the Jets.
Yeah, he's going crazy. He's
going crazy. You know, then they got Seattle. And then they got the Pets. So the first three games is kind of set up for him to get in a groove, right? And then you got the Vikings, which there's some vendetta against the Vikings.
Yeah.
Then you got the Browns, which should be easy. So the first few games the first quarter of the season he should get in a groove. I'm looking at how they're going to perform against others in their division, right?
Like, and Bengals, honestly, it's the mobility. Like he didn't have no mobility last year either. The Achilles was a real thing. He was coming off of that injury last year, and they always say it takes 2 years to look like yourself off of it. And some people never look like themselves off of Achilles injury. So I'm like, shit. Like there's probably I don't know. I just think there's a world where he surprises us in a lot of weeks, and probably he's having some more of them 304 TD type games. JC said. Rank Devontae Adams, DK Metcalf, Diggs, please. How you got it, Pete?
I got it just like that. I got Devontae Adams. I'm really high on Devontae Adams. In that, that Rams offense, you got Staff throwing to him. Staff's a gunslinger, one of the underrated ones in today's NFL. We just spoke about DK and then Diggs. I think that, as good as Diggs is coming off an injury, right? Already has some off the field drama. And he's just in an offense that really isn't a pass-heavy offense. Hopefully that can translate to something else. But if I'm going to rank them, I'm really high on Devontae, DK, and then Diggs. How about you?
No, I'm in the same boat with you. And the thing is, I might have DK a little bit higher than Devontae Adams. I'm going to kind of think about this because I think the potential for him yardage-wise, now that everything is locked in and confirmed, it seems like to me DK has real like 1,200 yard, 1,500 yard type season upside. Whereas I think Devontae is more like you're banking on the touchdowns more than the yardage. So I've had Devontae ranked like right there with DK. I want to say like very similar position. I'm probably going to rank DK a little bit higher than Devontae now.
Oh,
yeah. I'm gonna go DK, Devontae, and then Diggs. Diggs is like a different tier than those two. But Devontae and DK, very similar tier too.